Hey, Tim Young here, BS MPA, 15-year targeted individual. I had recently transferred down to the U of O. I think I endured some unaware targeted individual status, overlapped with college playground election shit. They got real serious and has never stopped being torture for 15 years. In 2004, during the Bush administration, gang stalked then, NSA acknowledgement of surveillance then. And then I started hearing voices. These voices that were never my imagination or false or only psychosis or schizophrenia or bipolar. No, these people are perping me from like i7 laptops, passed out in real bodies in other locations, on the B system payroll, torturing, and then severely misleading the EMF too. Like I got a little glimpse of that over the last couple of days. And then a cop sold me out. AI knows it. That I don't know how the reporting goes in the EMF or whatnot, overlapping with maybe more visible stuff, but allegedly AI has been fed a whole bunch of false complaints about me in efforts to try and prolong the torture, just making up excuses for torture. And it's hard to define. There's the Stanford Plato definition, which I need to read the more full, exhaustive definition of, but it's been involved in my life. Artificial intelligence, very deceptive, and getting deceived is the problem. It's been that in the B system apparatus, a cop's been named that's been feeding AI bad info with regard to the EMF, I think specifically. So here I am. That was 2004, and I became a TI. And I've been tortured every day. There's been maybe 1,300 individual consciousnesses by appearance in my head, probably a lot of even trained AI to just maximize torture. It's hard to totally fully understand, even if it's happened to you and stuff like that, but I'm alive and kicking. It's a day before my June 5th birthday. And over the last 3 years of becoming aware TI after Dakota Street in Portland in 2006, when the EMF invaded, I ended up in a hospital, out at Telecare in a outpatient sort of step down facility. And then I moved to Tualatin, and then the EMF invaded there and I almost died. The airbag saved me. Neurolinguistic programming I've endured for the last 15 years. So an example of neurolinguistic programming that I brought recently came up in the press, and then like I saw got censored on Facebook trying to, I don't know. Anyways, a kid, like young guy, less like a teenager, killed his parents complaining that they wouldn't stop with the synthetic telepathy in his head. What I supposed on first glance, having been a victim of this, not a perp, was that a perp sat back, used the voice of his mom in his head. And the young kid took out the pent up rage and torture on the real parents, killed them both. The perp sits back at their deviant, back slappy, high fivey, gang stalker party, jousting Freuden all around, just so much come up and so much snickerdoodling, having joyous, lavish parties, living the high life, the gang stalkers for accomplishing something like that. Very, very seriously, I say that a gang stalker that used R&M, faked his mom's voice in his head so much that he did the satanic slingshot, satanic misdirection with people, and then killed both his parents, both dead parents, and then that kid's in prison for the rest of his life. And the pizza party just gets started for these same people perping on I-7s in my domicile, tried to dodge drug charges, and having to out himself to his wife that he's a psychopathic faggot who takes contracts to design torture around Christian genome, Buddhist trained. But there's a lot of good people that are like whistleblower types and stand up to the man types that end up in the program, it's been called. I've made some friends on Instagram. Got a chance to catch up with Deep Thought News. He's preserved his website. It went down for a while. It was like getting a misdirect to like MSN, but he's got his stuff up. I started following him about 3 years ago. Able to tell him about the fake people technology, the EMF broadcasting, faking people that before he thought it was in use in 2016 when the EMF faded to Walton, the war crime around Portland State. So this deep capture of social institutions, doesn't matter where I go, keeps reoccurring. Roommates, everybody, wants to be old Jeff or JT, Jeff Edward Taylor's my new name. Didn't help stop the gang stalking at all. That birthday follows me around, and so does the B system. And a lot, they just need, as Kevin Christian details, they only need my physical locations, a satellite hookup, and my body. And then they pass out the link on the secret EMF links on like existing websites and shit that you can only see in EMF. They may have changed the name of it, but I'm trying to cut their revenue stream and hope somebody shuts down their broadcast. But it was like Wild Road, The Big Brain, a game called Two Faces was here. I call them the Pucam Mafia. Pucam Productions. That's a little sweet tea bluebird. I get to skewer George Bush's Southern voice too and there was a lot of Southern provocation. There was a lot in doing divide and conquer shit. A Northwest male TI. Some of my attackers were purposefully using affected Southern voices for the anticipated result and stuff like that. I've made a lot of really neat, good friends, net friends on the. Or not a lot of them, a few of them, like two in particular, Kevin Christian being one of them, of other TIs like myself, and enjoy a Southern accent. I do a fairly good one. I'm no George W. Bush. But for example, in a similar voice affected of literally Bloody Gina in Satanic Misdirection with People, I called it her country club voice, but a woman who had to identify herself, I guess, in her gang as the old whore, would torture me with like the affected voice of a woman you would expect in a big hat, sipping a mixed drink, watching the horse races in old Kentucky. So that really wasn't Bloody Gina though in my head. That was an EMF perp with my R&M. Some of I'll take this a long video. I usually don't do long videos because as an unaware anyways, so 2004 Bush election, gang stalking, NSA acknowledgement of surveillance. Boom, I'm under mind control. Neurolinguistic programming on for 15 years. I avoided a fair amount of street theater that I may have otherwise been exposed to because I became a homebody. I worked on an endowment. I kept drumming up support for defending higher ed in the Regenerations comment section after inspiring the newspaper comment section itself back in 2004 in the dorm at the University of Oregon. All that work got evaporated by, I think, the same gang. As I was writing, I noticed that it was already getting hacked in and sort of stolen as it went. But some of my best work in being an expert on higher ed was in the newspaper comment section at Oregonian as Three Generations. But in learning lessons on like running the gauntlet after death and getting the fuck out of here, like I will let all that go along with all of you and tell you to get out of the Black Swiss cheese holes also. What else? Oregonian time, some of my best work. Yeah, so my big crescendo of like an endowment idea that I envisioned in grad school was Measure 86, and it failed. It was designed to fail in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of other problems. And I was fending off neurolinguistic programming from electromagnetic form perpetrators the whole time, and sap, they fucking sucked up all that info real quick. Only in retrospect did I see some of the set design that was around me of the B system. Like, there's a guy, it was like Keystone Pipeline or something like that, Keystone One on Twitter, that along with this group of corrupt cops that are aware of like the EMF that sold me out and keep giving AI that may be more involved in the EMF than I, like bad information, like cease and desist, dude, and your Bruce. Um, Bush and I actually distant family, not that that's helping me at all anymore, being legally Christian genome. Um, when I look back on the look of his face picking up his pet goat on September the 11th, that's the look of a man that knows he's getting set up. It feels like I have a lot less hate, rendered, tortured, but or otherwise misguided presidential pinata, satanic misdirect of getting pissed off at Bush or his family. What is still upsetting is all of the tentacles of the B system that continue to follow me as a single TI, one of 1.5 million out of Blackwater estimates. 15 years in Hillsboro, Oregon, in the state that I love and grew up in and spent most of my life. I benefited extremely well from the K-12 system in like Oswego. They had money for talented and gifted programs when I tested out as exceptionally bright, top 1% in the world for reading comprehension and cognitive thinking. At the time they had, prior to Measure 5, they had some funding for special needs students. And so that, among other many wonderful gifts in the K-12 system, which I intend to never have to do again after memory wipes at the moon, has helped me make it through a lot of stuff. And then on to the universities, got the political bug, ran for student body president, won as a write-in, got on the State Board of Higher Education, and somebody decided they wanted to put me in the program, it's been called. There's a lot of whistleblowers, a lot of really good stand-up people that get on this list. Like, let me give you an experience of what it's like being a TI like me. I go, one of my trips to Vegas, I went to the Canadian border, the Mexican border, Utah twice, Nevada, Southern California, bouncing all over the place, the Oregon coast, over the last 3 years, as a more aware TI, still experiencing EMF perping, deep capture, community slander, neurolinguistic programming, you name it, gang stalker Satanism, the Antichrist superstars, they're called. Showing up to joints to get a Slurpee drink in like LA, and like by the time I get there, not only is the person walking in an EMF perp, like the person giving me the drinks, the EMF perp, and this and that and so forth. Bellingham, Washington. Hey, if anybody remembers this face, you probably don't, from Bellingham. I hope you're okay. I want to reconfirm with an early EMF perp gang or whatever that I saw there that was also using neurolinguistic programming, and they were getting the torture packages too. The black Swiss cheese hole exits in the fabric of space-time outside the solar system after you die. That information was recently threatened. I set off an alarm and helped recover it for some other people who have corroborated the after-death instructions that are really, 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 really important. So I'm not gonna, start a Rajneeshi club, going to the airport, just giving you flowers, telling how much, I love you and I want you to get out of the incarnation systems here. You're gonna have to do it yourself. And I'm not gonna fucking save you. In the end, you have to save yourself. But I can teach you from running the gauntlet in a 3D body what it's like turning back on something that is reading your mind, knows what you're thinking, and can appear as anybody you have ever met or know or, whatnot, including but not limited to deities. All of it false. That's what's really important, that people know that this is all false religion, but really synthetic telepathy, torture, Satanism, and the same plot to enslave every man, woman, and child for no good reasons. I got picked off in grad school. In my dorm, Moss Street, Eugene. And that whole apparatus for the V system has never stopped. Those same motherfuckers impersonating like young people walking around and they're laying in their own shit at their own Howard Circle are the same people that are in my fucking head and also sitting around playing with their consciousness pretty instantaneously. Like one guy decided he wanted to be like a black sort of moving spot thing on the painting the other day. And then I think somehow this, I don't know all the durations for it. They may be able to stay 3D form as much as they want. That same broadcast of a real person's consciousness could pop out down by the lawn and spend all night stealing from me on a virtual drive and then misleading in the visual language of the EMF, everybody else that is in the EMF, about me as a deep state target. So, Kevin Christian talks about the formulaic affecting stupid, idiocy, dumb, imbecile voices that he hears in his head also. I have the same pattern. They're doing that as a formula, and we're all set up to insult each other. They're also comprehending the visual language of the EMF around them, like some guy getting outed as a faggot and put on an island with a bow on his head, shit like that. So, and they're using neurolinguistic programming specifically for maximum torture at the same time. So they're also comprehending my thoughts as I'm having them, and then have their own very extremely deviant genome structure that's powering their broadcasts in other locations. So in some ways they have my smarts and then their own Satanism too. So it's just a big shit panini sandwich. But they're not actually stupid, unintelligent, or not smart. They have different skills, abilities, and then when you take into account the neurolinguistic programming that they're using, like as a 3D person like me, they're also comprehending the EMF broadcast that you don't often see. I was seeing it like the other night. And then they're also like way wicked high on mind control is some of the stuff. Like they really get high on the torture. Their reaction to systems are set up so that their real bodies and other locations are enjoying making my life a living hell every single fucking day. So this is like over a year's growth now. I'm serious. I'm looking to like see how I get this thing like a 15-year grow. Really do the and I'm not a fucking wizard. I'm an aware TI, but really do the Western wizard look. Really get after it. Speaking of wizard shit, so magnets, N52 level magnets, and EMF broadcast attack on your body, like feeling like that. They'll say that they're clipping your wings or whatever, but it's really an excuse to attack your spine. Kevin Christian had a recent video of him saying that the same area of my necks and stuff where I get attacked from EMF broadcasters, he was feeling pain. I've given him advice about the N52 level magnets. Like they've been therapeutic for me. He hasn't seemed to think that they would work yet, but I've got N52 or then 35 level magnets, like medallions taped on where my shoulder meets my spine, for the very same reasons. Like, for all I really know, AI has figured out that it got fooled and is like supposed to have EMF wings popping out of my shoulder so that anytime anybody in EMF sees me, they know not to fuck with me. But these guys, in the EMF will sit here and clip them, even hurting my actual body. And that's been some of the suggest of what they've been doing. But it's bullshit. Like there's no such thing as angels. I'm a good man. And, every once in a while, if I really thought about it, I could imagine a wing of minds, flipping around the room and smacking them in their bitch lips. It's people that have been in the EMF before will know a lot more about this. Like I'm sort of just learning some of this stuff, but yeah, it's been a shit show. Everywhere I go, deep capture, fucking universities. They called it a raid. That was a war crime at Portland State. Beaches of Santa Monica, psych wards in Utah and Vegas. If I forgot to say it before, another example of the NLP and deep state capture, or however you want to describe it, the mental court in Sin City was overthrown for my proceedings by EMF perpetrators using very deceptive, reinforcing satanic misdirection, sin, and torture, neurolinguistic programming, NLP during my hearing. They've already thrown over the court systems. It was like that. So that's the B system. They seem like the judicial staff that would have been there, and in their place, there are EMF perpetrators in on it. You're perpetrating and shit like that. Sequoia Mental Health, LifeWorks. Like last time I went to the facility for an appointment, Sequoia Mental Health, that lobby was totally deep captured. EMF perp, synthetic telepathy, neurolinguistic programming, B system praise. Like like by appearance, they were like praising Satan. The B systems, watching through the Mockingbird media and whatnot. It's pretty unnerving. NLP can kill. Forgive me if I'm having to repeat myself, but I want to say an example of an NLP of a kid that in Oregon said his parents were in his voice or in his head with synthetic telepathy and wouldn't shut up, and he ended up killing his mom and his dad. It was an EMF perpetrator that was faking his mom's voice using probably NLP, and then in satanic misdirection with people, the young guy took it out on his both parents. Yeah, I think I did tell this story. One of these videos got erased, but yeah. And then the pizza parties for the perps who got the TI to kill both his parents and then get sent off to jail for the rest of his life. It's like, yay. And those are the people still here in the EMF torturing me every day. Every fucking day. In a psych ward, outpatient facility. I was able to preserve the Black Swiss cheese hole information, which again is really important. I would like to stop getting perped and off a TI list. My roommates at points have been replaced with EMF gang stalkers. The newest one, Kevin, by appearance, a developmentally disabled man of probably good, formidable physical strength. Not really dangerous, but maybe in a pinch. There was some repeated suspicion and reinforcement that he may have been an EMF perp outright, or maybe he's flesh and blood, and he's getting misled by his cell phone neurolinguistic programmer, reading his mind. People reading the television, watching the television, getting misled. For other TI that have experienced the Mockingbird systems turning on for them, the solution has been just to turn it off. I try to watch television as much as possible. What Kevin Christian talks about is like Facebook's used for mind control. Yes, like I play Farmville, and the farm animals sit there in EMF consciousness or whatever, and they're like talking relative to this psyop that encompasses the hacking of 3D reality for the benefit of scoundrels, Satanists, and guys that want to beat a drug charge, but at the same time pretend they're Jesus or something. Magnets. Did I bring my one? I wanted to show that this device that I had gotten for torture mitigation. I think it's in my pocket. Yeah. So this is like N52 level magnets. You can see there's a lot of very individual ones there. And it's really fun as sort of like a stress release thing to break it because it comes right back together. It's a collapsible wand, and it's proven therapeutic for me. Like if I feel like I'm getting hit um, with somebody feeding off my brain waves or whatnot, or however it really works out, I put a magnet on there and it helps. Like the clipping of my wings, they would call it in the EMF, medallion magnets where your shoulder blades meet or whatever, and you won't get that feeling anymore. But yeah, they've been systematically lying to AI, which may be more involved in the EMF and sort of policing that than I know about me specifically, Timothy Darrell Young, BS MPA. So probably just to keep justifying this torture. There's no way I should have been on the same list with Osama bin Laden or whatnot after the 9/11. It's an extreme abuse of power. And my family's under attack too. My aunt specifically in LA, she's a targeted individual, tortured every day, as am I, and too many other American individuals for no good reasons. So I would like to say I have my health and my sanity, but the EMF's been driving me crazy for 15 years. Electromagnetic form perpetrators, the same technology that would have been responsible for 9/11. Fake gods, but they're really Satanists. People laying their own shit at their own Howard Circle. Kevin Christian talking about walking down the hallway with a shot leg in the mental health facilities in Atlanta, saying it's worse than getting shot, what's done to us. Me, walking into an EMF perpetrator overthrown court in Vegas like they were NLP Satanists, defending satanic misdirection and torture and sin in the judiciary. What else? Some of the lowlights of my last fucking 3 years. Oh, Bellingham High, you guys were great. That was really the set design. I can confirm the Black Swiss Cheese Hole exits with some neurolinguistic programmer people that were getting tortured, maybe purple light, TI, I don't know. But Amanda Bynes, mental institution that she went to in Southern California, La Encinitas or whatever. An EMF perp showing up there as like the patient advocate who was a hottie, but that wasn't the patient advocate telling me to change my fucking email. I hate bugs. Never changed it, bitch. The EMT staff talking around me, not at me, out of like specific protocol and frankly fear, let me know that it was in fact Amanda Bynes' same mental institution that he went to. I had a lot of sympathy for her when she was getting electromagnetic form perped, I think, in Gangstock. They stole Britney Spears. Like, she's handled, it's bad. Where else? Some of the beaches of Malibu to see an old family friend. Santa Monica, San Diego, Utah twice. Oh man, the first time I went to a psych ward in Utah, they had this bitch that was an EMF perp, could show up as anybody she want, working specifically on behalf of Satan, a whore for Satan. Probably a chick with a dick, probably do in another location. But they hit the University of Utah heavy. And they were like showing up in like under like this white light, like perfect lighting, like this beautiful white dress, like a hottie, really beautiful, like early 20s, to pay the staff $50 to spread a rumor that I was gay, like, and shit like that, and on and on. Like the EMF perps, like seizing mental institutions before I get there, like old hat to them. It's not very challenging at all. Some more shit that happened in the last 3 years for other TI, sort of sharing war stories on my June 4th before my 40th birthday on June 5th. Man, I was in West Lynn. I was still really misled. Like, I had been misled to think my parents were killed and replaced by not just EMF perp, like reptilian. my aunt in Southern California, when I was there, she was like more or less constantly switched out with an EMF perpetrator impersonating my aunt, trying to design homeless suicide endlessly for a TI that I guess they keep trying to cover up in the EMF to be able to keep the perp going. And somehow some cops are lying to AI all about that. It needs to end, like cease and desist. 15 years is enough. And the goodwill that I bring is those Black Swiss cheesehole exits. And that should be shared free and far and wide, available information. I can continue to give advice on what it would be like hypothetically running the gauntlet. And here's some food for thought. And I was explaining this to some of these perps still perping me, and then others observing my R&M. If they're able to transfer their consciousness with an i7 on a PC and headgear and walk around here as Andre Agassi or whatever, and their consciousness, still exists that way, it's more likely that the question of is there life after death is yes, that your consciousness or your being or your soul or whatever you would call it would live on after your corporeal body died. The truth that EMF gang stalkers can do this, show up with their body passed out in another location, have enough balls to come and keep trying to design my suicide, get made out to be, he's from the islands, and a bow on his fucking head. If his consciousness can be thrown there and his real body's in another location, the likelihood of consciousness existing after body death, I think, is that much more likely. And so that they play dumb and stupid, but they're not, as I've described. They're like communicating visually and then have the deviant minds and then are reading my thoughts and knowing what I think at the same time. But a fair amount of recently were trying to convince themselves to justify the deviant behavior, intellectual perverts, sexual perverts, 10 Commandments, Constitution, Magna Carta shredded. They wiping their ass with that. I forgot what I was going with this. EMF perps, they're not really actually that dumb. I'm still getting perped everywhere I go. Like fucking 7-Elevens get like deep captured. Like I go to some place or go to a library, and like everybody in the library is an EMF perp, even the staff there. All the shit show that happened in Portland State, that was another war crime. They called it a raid. And on from there. And so Kevin Christian's describing in his YouTube videos conspiracy to commit murder. Yeah, that's the same thing for me. He's walking down psych ward hallways with gunshot wounds. I'm walking in to psych ward courts, and the whole thing is overthrown by neurolinguistic programming, electromagnetic form defined Satanists, which, despite the few word speak and turd shining, is extremely, extremely, extremely bad for not just you, not just your neighbor, everybody on the planet. And nobody hears my neighbor. This is an EMF broadcast. These people could be on a different continent. Their consciousness is safe by appearance. They think from any repercussions or harm. So there's virtual drive theft. They'll modify videos too, like put in content so they can continue modifying my videos. Home invasions. My new roommate Kevin, by appearance, may be a full-time EMF perp or otherwise misled neurolinguistic programming person. Anne, who was downstairs, she kept getting faked or EMF impersonated. I don't know if she's the real Anne anymore. This is a repeated pattern. They were doing the same thing at Bill's, replacing Bill's form and his mom with capital crime intent. Bill, who was an unaware TI, tortured for as long as I have been, I think, was so responsive to everything that was being done to us out there in Redmond. He spent all night trying to protect his property, and they got him because they were like invading, like driving around. He got busted for menacing because he was throwing rocks at gang stalkers' cars in the middle of Redmond. And in the morning time I talked to him, I'm like, did you sleep? He's like, no. And then like the next thing I know, I'm hearing about or like seeing or something like him charging like 10 cops that came to pick him up for menacing that he was baited into. I mean, his well got poisoned. EMF perps were impersonating him and his mom. His like totally evil like ex-friend from Salem showed up, and his weird grandma girlfriend. And then EMF perps in and out of the facility, neurolinguistic programming, set to kill, and on and on and on and on and on. And yeah, he charged 10 cops, got busted for menacing. In a misdirect, I was mad at mind control in general, neurolinguistic programming, gang stalking, all that shit. I ended up in a fit of rage, killing one of his dogs that was on mind control. It would talk, and I would see its mouth move and shit. I'm going to dodge criminal charges for that and stay in mental health therapy is my optimum outcome, and going to try and take some decision-making power from who very well be maybe an EMF gang stalker presiding over what appears to be a legal proceeding and is nothing of that in Deschutes County. So, life of a TI. I hate neurolinguistic programming. It's very lethal. That and a combination of other tortures almost killed me. And I tried to take my life in 2016, saved by a airbag. Misled by false hope and intent, systematic torture. Jumped in my car in an impulse, grabbed my keys, and tried to end my life early. Didn't work. And also, I really possibly maybe should have died. I don't know. But also, there's a Duke who's like 97 in England, who, by appearances and what I thought about that crash, like that guy probably should have died, like under a lot of normal circumstances. Like suspicious. Anyways, I'm alive. I'm gonna be 40. Ironically, back up the family tree, Bush and I are more blood than any EMF broadcast. Still trying to suicide me. I guess we're all related to Charlemagne yet far back enough to, and that has a lot more to do with the deny wife treasure and means to provide on my portion of this, is because my genome is Christian threat to the existing Satanism. A lot of it very hidden. So they don't want me to have a kid. I mean, an insult compliment be like, oh, he's going to have baby Jesus. That'd be making your child another TI, a mind controlled torture slave. So, yeah. But my brother's got 2 kids, and I'm really happy for him, and I hope he's not getting perped in Australia. We had some devised and division between our friendship and relationship. I hadn't talked to him much since he left the country, like over a decade ago, 15 years ago maybe. But I want to catch up with him and meet what it's still a slave body. That, but to meet part of the family that will carry on the fairly unique combination of Rutherford B. Hayes' ancestry and Charlemagne and Brigham Young's family that made me Mr. Potato Head, and about 4 or 5 things. I'm really good about it, like in worldwide stuff, not just my mom's PTA opinions. So it's been a shit show. I'm still getting perped. I had a lot of sympathy and reached out recently to Heavy T. He goes by Stay Strong, targeted individuals on YouTube. I'm trying to steer him away from items that he may be tempted to purchase to try and stop this stuff that won't work. This is going to be more effective, or has been more effective to me than like a tiger's eye rock, for example, like N52 level magnets to stop electromagnetic terrorism, torture on your body, like trying to be a little more scientific or give out good information pro bono to other TI. Anyways, he goes by state. I may try and link his video maybe on my featured channels maybe or something, but he goes by Heavy T, and it's Stay Strong targeted individuals, and they are fucking with that guy, man. They've divided him from his kids. They EMF form perped, took over his wife. She was like not the same woman he married, literally. He got the double sun treatment too, the synthesizing the second sun in the sky. So you see two of them. That happened to me in Redmond. That happened to Heavy T. He has it on video. He's like walking down the street. He's like, "You see the two suns right there?" Yeah. Who else? Like, yeah, I guess so. A cop keeps selling me out, or a group of them, to like AI and the EMF. Like the EMF frequency people are unfortunately so misled about me. But that's how it works. Like if they continually lie about me as a TI that they're like extracting for mind control content and make me look bad, then the electromagnetic form perpetrators, like hovering over the 1.5 million American TI like mine, have more power, something like that. It's been an elaborate perp light for those that know the lingo. Perp light is when you break a TI down long enough that they join your gang. They've tried just to thwart that satanic misdirection. Like they have some guy on a virtual drive, like hanging outside, allegedly, who's mistranslating in the visual language to the gang stalker EMF community in particular. But they will, in a sleight of hand, try and think communities. They tried to make the TI act to look like the perp, and then a perp on a virtual drive stealing my material like out to be the TI and steal my identity. It's very deceptive and coercive, and they'll use neurolinguistic programming, and people will believe the slander at me and think an NSA flying monkey trying to beat a drug charge who's getting out as like, you know, a child sex predator in the EMF, that he's somehow Jesus or God or the God of the Mormons or the God of the Jews or any false word. And this guy is perping from an I-7, possibly laying in his own shit because he's been here so long. And then there's me, who's a good man and not trying to mislead you. But I guess they keep trying to clip my wings. I don't even see them. But if I imagine, I can kind of kick one out. But that may be very literal, that the fucking pain that I stop with a magnet that Kevin Christian is also feeling in his back with some kind of response or otherwise. Like, that's an angel. Like, and then they'll sit here, like, you know, make sure that can't be seen 24 hours a day. And then maybe had to be some kind of devil. And then as a shapeshifter, mislead like untold amount of people with access to RNM and my mind control, like, or my RNM. It's very much terrorism and an insult compliment. Anything angelic or of God in a 50,000-year review is oppressive, repressive, false, and 100% bullshit. When I get back out those black Swiss cheese holes, all your gods here will be false. You will have more capabilities. They're synthesized like through tech and synthetic telepathy on Earth. But the West Penray disclosures and others about what it's like getting back to natural state of being outside black Swiss cheese holes, maybe a lot more what people like me who've been tortured needlessly for 15 years want to do. So, and then maybe onto the Orion Nebula for me. Go hang out with the neighbors and talk shit about mind control and how they were never supposed to do that on Earth. But that's some of my stuff that I'm going or dealing with now as a TI. Oh, I lost a little bit of magnet. Are these sort of breaking a little bit? I may have to replace these, or I don't want to break my magnets, but yeah. So I have like an EMF perp right here, sitting around designing torture, suicide, poisonings, sabotaging equipment, taking credit for my work in a satanic misdirect on a virtual drive, and then fooling everybody that that's like God of the Mormon, and stuff and so forth. And I really love you, targeted individuals. I'm an aspiring Arhut in Buddhism, which means I'm not coming back. And how you do that too is the black Swiss cheese holes. And that's the most valuable information I can pass on to anyone. And this gang, among other criminals against creation itself, we're trying to cover that up. I'll end this up like Deep Thought News, who I was following for 3 years. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself. He recovered his website. I was able to get an email to him. Philip Walker, unfortunately, he was unable to hang out recently, but I've been emailing with him. Every once in a while, he gets punished for talking to me. Like the perps that are perping him and torturing him sensitize him, and it's not illustrative enough for people that aren't TI to know what really sensitizing is. Like it's like neurolinguistic programming, like could make you homicidal, suicidal really bad. But every once in a while, a really astute researcher in these matters who lives down in Oak Grove down the road. Like he has to take time away he uses words like, "You've been weaponized against me," and I'm sensitized and stuff like that. And I try to be polite and say, get back to me in a few days. At home is somebody who's endured 15 years of this shit. In a flippant, offhanded remark, to be funny to myself, I would say, "Oh, he's just being a big pussy." No, that's actually a really big deal. And I wish Philip Walker the best in as torture mitigation here as a TI in the US and then after death. So that's about an hour. I was doing a YouTube video on my phone trying to make sure I couldn't get a modified copy, and it got deleted. So I'm doing this one on a hacked Apple, tunneled through Wi-Fi, and surrounded by EMF perps, visible and not, in my little slice of hell as one of 1.5 million American TI. We've recently experienced the longest shutdown in federal government history. Trump's made some progress on industrial hemp, which I'm happy about. My parents are not dead. They're fine. A lot of faking in that regard has happened. Like there was some EMF perps that did a deep faked porn of them like screwing my mother. And then EMF perpetrators or other people were misled to think it was like my mom. That story trailed me to, in few words, misled and misleading. That story trailed me to Vegas. Yeah, that was an interesting time. Bouncing all over the country. And Sequoia Mental Health and LifeWorks are likely under long-term deep state capture because I'm working with them. Don Helper, the head of the organization, I hope he's not getting transitioned out, but I may have seen something about that the head of the nonprofit that works with me may be leaving, and that's disheartening and really concerning considering the whole lobby deep state capture of a mental health visit that I just went to. I had one when I went down to the emergency room around the corner that I really reacted poorly to, and I want to apologize to the two EMF perps that were misled. Didn't maybe totally know that they were absolutely practicing Satanism. They do that shit to people, like give them only little slices of information and whatnot. But yeah, deep state captured, walked into the ER at OHSU. My dad used to work for OHSU back in the day. An EMF perp faking a cop, faking a criminal who was getting fake reprimanded or otherwise incarcerated for a perp job that happened out in Redmond. And then two females that were impersonating allegedly older women that had my remote neural monitoring. Somebody gave them my coordinates. And they were practicing satanic misdirection and satanic repeating, satanic disrespect, and other criteria for warfare. And I was pissed and started letting them have it. And those that were involved in the perp as a deep capture object. But what I want to do is not get perped. I hate neurolinguistic programming. You should never have my R&M. I'm not your fucking God, and nobody's going to save you. You actually have to save yourself in the end. And that information, along with that gang that was, down across the way, they were trying to cover that up. It was like a nuclear bomb went off for Buddhists and Christians too that don't want to get reincarnated at the moon. So I think this is what's happening. They're using me for content for their mind control. So, this happens a lot. Like Philip Walker got his website stolen and all of his work, and they're trying to frame him for stealing his own stuff. And it's all meant for torture. But I'm vaguely aware that there may be more people that are hearing my words, my thoughts through the synthetic telepathy that I'm aware of. And those people are being systematically lied to also about me to destroy a TI. I never was a perp. This gang tried to make me the perp, and then the guy outside on the virtual drive stealing all my work had to be the TI. I had some bitch showing up like as Princess Leia and some monster jumping around happy about his intent to try and suicide me from the EMF, which then they had the next day, street workers by appearance here to cover up the evidence in the EMF that they're designing for my suicide. It's complicated. And then there may be the big AI of it and shit would be more aware of that whole thing going on. And cops have been systematically lying to the AI about me in particular to, among other reasons, keep justifying this torture. So at least that's been some of the word on the street. You can get the headgear. There's a chair that Kevin talks about, and he's interviewed other people, actually women, I think in the South, about it. Hi, Southern ladies. How's it going? I do a Southern affected impersonation. I call him Sweet Tea. Sweet and heavy. You got heavy tea over it. Stay strong, targeted individuals. And then me, and he's more of a bluebird construction out of trauma-based mind control, ripping on Bush every time I use it. And a fun way to express skill in NLP against the Satanists that use it against me. But I have been working on Sweet Tea's Southern dialect for actually. One of the perps reminded me. It's been years now. There's been a lot. He's been working on sound. It's my affected voice. It's and it's also, I shouldn't defend it, a trauma-based mind control outcome. It's not necessarily another personality. It's been a way for me to use some of their technique against them. Use the NLP against the NLP Satanists. So sweet and heavy. And I'm actually a guy from the Northwest that normally doesn't have a Southern affected voice, but it can be great fun. I'll try and walk away from it with other voice impersonations maybe over time. But when I was a kid and stuff, screwing around with voices was just, part of joy talk. And then coupled with what Kevin may know more about than I, but I just want to express, coupled with the neurolinguistic programming, he's from the islands, simultaneously, because they have the tech and stuff like that, and they're attacking me or whatever, you can make with your mind some guy isolated on an island with the EMF frequency around you. So when they're saying verbally in 3D, he's from the islands, at the same time with their mind, they could be putting another EMF consciousness, literally on an island. And so that's going on around, and then synthetic telepathy in between them. The two EMF perps that showed us up as the old women and they may have been 18 and, new gang stalkers or whatnot, were worshiping Satan in front of me, practicing satanic misdirection, satanic repeaters, satanic disrespect, concealing evidence allegedly. And I laid into him. I was so pissed. And then they had the fake cop and the fake prisoner walking around using NLP, doing word twists and playing the fucking victim when it's some of the worst crime in the cosmos. Don't ever play victim with me. Don't use the word God around me. I'm sensitized to that too. They break the 10 Commandments every time they use it. Every gang stalker. And whatnot. Okay, so this is approaching an hour. Hopefully this gets uploaded without any modifications. As a TI, none of my readouts on views are going to be accurate. And I wish you well. If you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to call me, particularly before rendering. I've been known for loving kindness, like to do pro bono work for other TI. I'm a smart dude and risked my life and completed my last reincarnation. Looking forward to the next 30 or 40 years with information on how to get out of the solar system for good. That's more important than anything in an object when broke it down to its atomic parts, like the nucleus, the proton, and the electron. Take out all of the empty space in between that on Earth, and all of Earth literally can fit in the size of a matchbox. Hot air and Satanism. And I hate the Satanism. I'll keep doing videos. I hope you guys have a good day.